Okay, simple ARG
Image.
containers. Okay, image create, we created the image, our inbuilt image, and then not inbuilt image, we used the base image to create our own image, and then we just saw how we can execute the script, and with the volumes we store the data and all, right? And then we saw how we can execute the containers. Now, today I'm going to show you the real-time applications, how we can create it and how we can put it in the container and run it. And then we can modify it, and then we'll jump into the compose site, Docker compose. So we'll see how we can handle multiple containers using Docker compose. Okay, so let's start. Let me share my screen. Okay, before that, let me just tell you the requirement first. The requirement is I have suppose one application, one simple application, one front end only. The database part I'll not show you today. The database part will cover in the Docker Compose project. Okay, so the simple application is there, and I'm just telling you the requirement. You tell me how that can be done. Okay, I have one small application, UI application is there, and that is suppose Apache server. Okay, and this is a static web page only, and I want to put that in a container, and I have to write my own image file. So what I need to do? Yes. Okay. See, it's very simple. First of all, we have to create our own image, right? What we have to do, we need a base image. So what will be the base image? Here the base image will be the Apache server. From HTTPD, we have to get a version. Which version of Apache do you want to run? After that, what we need? We need to set the working directory. We need to set the, we need to copy the project, like we need to copy the application. The application here will be suppose index.html, small static page I have to, suppose I'll design. We need that one to be copied to the container. Okay, after that, what we need to persist those data in our volume. We need to keep that one in our volume. Okay, so how that can be done? So let's see. Let me share my screen and we'll just write the code. Okay, so hope you guys have gone through this Docker references, okay, and how to use the Docker references and all, right? So there are lots of commands I had told you. Just you just go through these commands. Also, I'll show you all these commands and the differences. What are the differences of these commands? Okay, let me just open the terminal. Okay, so we had created one Docker file last class, right? Just let me check it. So this is a very simple Docker file we had created from the BG box. Okay, and we had copied. We had done some like example of copy command and work directory and command CMD. So today I'm just going to show a different one. Let me first rename this Docker file. Okay, I create one more new fresh one, and here first thing is we need the base image. Okay, so I have to choose from, that is the sorry, from, okay, then from httpd, suppose we need httpd Okay, if you need a version, then you have to specify which version of HTTPD do you want. Okay, suppose I don't want any version, I want the latest version of the HTTPD. Okay, then what we need, once the HTTPD server base image we got it, we have to write our own syntax, like our own recipes, right? We have to write our own instructions, what we need for our application. Now, the simple things I'm just going to write here. Suppose I just want to copy this, okay, to copy this to the working directory, right? So what is the command to copy? Simple copy command, right? Copy. If you want to know more about this copy, how it is being used, you can just see it here. Copy something and the directory name. What it will do, it will copy the file from the current context, from the current context, and then place into the working directory or the path of the container, whatever the path you specify, right? Let me just do index.html to the path. Okay, suppose it will be for HTTPD, the working directory will be, okay, so let me get the image details first. Go for HTTPD. Go to the tags, latest. I'm just going to get the working directory. So if you see here, this is the Docker file. This is the image layers. Okay, this is the Docker file of the HTTPD, and this is the base image. What I am going to use it. So when I use the base image, what will happen? Whatever the instructions given already in the base image, that will be intact. That will be there. Apart from that, if I want some more instructions, as per our requirement, I'm going to add few more layers into that image. So image layering, image is actually, it consists of multiple layers. Okay, so here the working directory, if you can see here, user local apache 2, user locally local apache 2. So suppose same thing, I'm just suppose going to use to copy user. I'm not going to add the working directory again because the work directory is already there in the base image. You understood, guys, right? Whatever is already there, I don't want to use it, or else what will happen? It will overwrite the instructions or the layers, whatever is there in the base image. Suppose I will just make the working directory. Okay, let me just do that first. Local Apache Apache 2, then htdocs. Okay, so here work directory, and what, suppose I just want to use this work directory as htdocs. htdocs, what will happen? I'm just showing with this example how it overrides the base image instructions or base image layers. So what happens here, I added one more work directory here, work directory. That means whenever our container will get created, our working directory will be this path, not apache 2, whatever is mentioned here in this image, this layer, right? Let me do that. Okay, and I just going to copy this one to the index.html. So that's all. This is the very simple. And on another thing is, like once the Apache server is run, you may have to expose the port, right? As I told in our last class, you have to, if you are going to expose some port to different port, you can just use expose command, like that. Expose 80, it is already exposing the port 80, so I don't need that expose again to be there because it is already there in the base image. The next one is the CMD, which will require the application to run in the foreground, right? It will not get exited. that will be running all the time. Okay, so we'll get it httpd program. If you want to modify, if you want to modify this command, what you have to write, you have to add here another layer CMD, then based how it is written httpd, right? So just give, and if you want to write something else, you can just put it here. Okay, that will modify the base image. Now this is very simple image file I just created. Let me just create the image from this Docker file. Okay, again, so what is the context area? What is the context area? What will happen, guys, here? If you see, this is the folder, and here my Docker file is there, and here unnecessary few things are there which is not required for my application, which is not required for my application. Okay, the context area, you can tell this simple example. The context area is nothing but the where your Docker file available and where your Docker file is getting built. Your Docker file is getting built. That is your context area. So from here only, from this path, I'm going to build the image. So what will happen? Whatever things available, it will be bundled. It will be bundled to a binary file. That binary file is nothing but our image, right? Already we have seen our last classes. So let me just let me delete this thing. It's not there, right? Let me delete this one. It's not required for unnecessary to add some more size to the image, to the image file, right? Let me delete it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, let me just build. What is the command to build? Docker build, right? Docker build, give a tag -t, and suppose I'll give my registry name, then just give the name of the image. Give the name of the image. Suppose I'll just give my app. The image name is, suppose, my app. My app. I'll just give a different name, my personal app. Okay, so give a version of this 1.0. Give dot. So dot is nothing but the current directory or current context from where it will get built, right? Hit enter. Okay, what happened here? So the image is trying to getting built but fell to, okay, so that index.html not found. So let's see. So we got a failure message here, error message. Let's see whether our image is created or not. Okay, so what is the command? Docker image ls. See, these are the ARG images which was created in our last classes. So our image is not there, right? Let me reduce the size a little bit. Okay, so our image is not created because we got an error here. Okay, what it says, index.html not found. So let's see in the current context it is there or not. No, our index file is not there. Quickly, I'll create one index file.
Small question, Ranjit.
Yes, please.
See, in that actually I have uploaded images into Docker hard registry. So that is, I have selected a free tier. Is there any limit for storing the images? Is there any size limit or something like that?
See, size limit is the image size must be, see, it will be like there is no limit actually set. But if you create the image will be more than 1 GB or something, maybe. See, if you're Docker Hub is it's a registry, right? Is it registry? Is it? You can say like repository. So every repository, if
Yes.
you are going to use their free tier, there would be some limitations. But you can upload the image. So image file, apart from the OS layers, the image files not go beyond 1 GB. Okay, not go beyond 1 GB. It will be below 1 GB and you can easily upload into the registry. Did you get any error?
I didn't get any error. I just uploaded.
Okay.
So I'd like to know what is the
No, no, no.
limitations and things.
There is no
And I have created, yeah, I have created one
Acha,
like folder.
okay.
But can we change the name of this registry? Like suppose I have created Venkat. Is there any way can we change that? Because I tried to change it, but I'm not able to find any option.
Folder means?
Like suppose you have created like Docker for Ranjit,
Uh-huh.
and same thing I have created uh, Venkat for Docker.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to upload the images into that repository and one folder.
Okay. So 1 second, let me check it.
I successfully able to load, but so I tried to change the folder name. So Docker for Ranjit is the one of the folders, right? Yeah.
So you have created, suppose, see, Docker for Ranjit is not one of the folder, it is the registry name. It is the registry, it is the repository.
Right.
It is the repository name. This is the repository where I am putting this image. Where I am putting this
Okay.
image. It's not a folder actually. If you want to modify, then you have to create another repository. You have to create another repositories. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, just if you create, just try to create, don't submit, just to try to create another repository.
Yeah. So I'm just checking it whether it is account information. So convert account. Yes. So what happened to you can create organizations. Okay, to use organization feature, you may convert your account from user to an organizations. What happens in the companies, enterprises, right? What they use, they create organizations. Here, what happened? I have just single user. If you here, they have given an option like there is not much options here. Maybe in the enterprise versions there will be different options also available, but here it just gives to convert it to the organization. If you want to convert to the organization, you can create multiple organization, and in that organizations you can put the images. In the GitHub, if you remember, I had showed you organization creation, right? I had one organization where I
Yes.
had kept all my codes in the that repository, right? So here similarly, in that hub, Docker hub also, you can create multiple organization, and in that organization you can store your images. Suppose you have multiple teams there, right? Multiple teams. If you want to segregate those images based on the organizations, you can create it and put it in there. If you want to delete it or rename it, there will be options to uh, delete it, but I don't want to convert this to the organizations. Let it be there. So you just try it, create one, and just try at your home. Okay, by yourself, you just try to do that. If not, then we'll discuss it. Okay. Then I'll just show you. I'll just create another account and we see how we can convert into the organization and how we can put multiple images in the different organization. Okay. Uh, so you got it, Venkat, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me try to
Yeah, yeah.
check that.
Try to do that. Okay. So I just created my application now, and let's rebuild that one. Let's rebuild the image.
And one more thing, after 1.0, why we are giving another dot? Because when I try to build, I'm getting error, but I missed to do this dot. Because of that, it was not able to create.
Exactly.
So,
Okay. So anyone else can answer his question why the dot is here? I have told multiple times why the dot is here.
The current context,
Yeah. So
current path.
exactly. So Venkat, because see, we have not specified where our Docker file is available because based on this Docker file instructions, it will build the image, right? So we are giving the instruction here while executing this command. We need to specify the Docker file where the Docker file is available. Then when we give dot in Unix, you remember it will be the current path. Dot is the current working directory, right? Similarly, in this Docker concept, it's called as the current context, the context area, current context where the Docker file is available. Okay, so if the Docker file is available some other different file or different folder, what we have to do? We have to specify the path where the Docker file is available. So what we have to do, we have to specify -f the path and then done. Okay, I'll just show you another example where I'll just keep the Docker file in a different folder and then I'll build it. Okay, now what happens? Okay, our image is now built, right? Let me see that whether our image is built or not. Docker, yes. So this is the image. What is the image that? Docker for Ranjit, my personal app 1.0 version is, and this is the image ID. Okay, so now this is our personal image is created. Let's create a container out of that. Okay, let's create a container. Okay, now what I'm going to do, okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just create the container. So how we'll create the container? What is the command? Use docker run, or I can use docker container run, right? Then -g, I'm just going to run in the detached mode. Then what we have to do, we have to just specify a name for that. Name equal to, I can give my, similarly my personal app, my personal app. So remember this camel case, the camel uppercase and lowercase, the camel case will not work, it will throw error. So we can give a name, my personal container, personal container. Okay, the container name is my personal container, or like anything, ABC cont. We can give ABC container. Any name you can give it here. Now what I'm going to do, give it, I'm going to publish the port. I'm going to publish the port. Okay, -p port 80 is the host port. Again, 80 is the container
It
port. Okay, now what I'm going to do it here, just give the image name. So we have to just give image name here colon 1.0, because we have to specify this tag, otherwise what will happen, it will search for the latest tag, it will search for the latest version which is not available, it will search for the latest version and which is not available. Okay, now hit enter. Okay, so it should be hyphen hyphen name, not hyphen n. Nice. I just missed it. Okay, what happened here, guys? What is this? As I'm running in my local laptop, my local host, what happened? It is already one port is already bind. That means 80 is already being used in my machine. So I cannot use this port. So what I can do instead, I can just simply use another different port. Okay, suppose let me use as 81. Hit enter. Good. What happened here, again another error which is said is already exist. That means when I created this one, what happened here, it created the container, however it just throw error that the port is not able to listen because it's already in use. Okay, so if I do check here docker container ls hyphen a. So see, we have this container is running, which is the ABC container, and is created and it's running also. But we cannot able to access it because if I do access here, localhost only, localhost, it will give a different, it will give me different application. Okay, it will give me different application. Okay, so this is my own application which is running locally on my laptop. I don't want that. So what instead I'm going to do, let me delete this container first. Okay, docker container rm hyphen f, container rm hyphen f. So why I gave hyphen f here?
Forcefully
Okay, I forcefully,
running content.
yeah, I forcefully deleted the running container. Okay, now let me just execute again. Okay, see our container is now created. Let's see if it is running or not. Docker container ls. Okay, our container is running. This is the abc container and this is the container id. Okay, now let me access this container localhost colon 81. So 81 is the port, host port I gave, right? See, okay, you can see here I have one container is running. The same thing, same image file I'm going to use, and I'm just going to create another container to create in a different port. Same port, because it is already there, I cannot do it. What I'll do instead, I'll just give a different name, abc container. I'll just give a different one, and here just give a different port, 82. Got it? Now let's do that. Copy this, put it here, use 82. See, now how many container I have? I have two containers, the same application running in two different containers. One is 81, the same thing, 82. Now let me show you one real time again. I'm just going to modify the image and recreate a different version. We'll create another container. Let's see what is there. Okay. Now if I see, we'll have two containers running. Okay, two containers, one is abc container 1, abc container. Okay, now let me do what, I'm just going to modify the file. Okay, and let me do here something like, Okay. So hello Docker, this one, and let me just add one more line here. Okay. As I modified my application, what I have to do, I have to rebuild my image. I have to rebuild my image. So what I can do, uh, okay, one more thing, I can do it better actually. The local host. One second. I have my application actually there and it's right. Good. What I'll do here, fine. This will be big. Let's do. Now I have to rebuild the image. Okay, quickly I'll do that. Docker build -t and give the repository name slash. So what is that one? Suppose my personal app, the image name will be same, but the tag will be suppose 1.1 dot. So current context. Hit enter. Okay, so it is now created. It created another image, but this time the version is different. That is 1.1. The tag is 1.1. So let me create another applications or another container out of this image. What we'll do quickly, I'll do Docker container build hyphen d. Sorry, not build. I'm going to run the container, right? Hyphen d. Give a name to that. Suppose ABC container 2 hyphen p. Already 81, 80, 81, 82 ports are in use. Okay, let's do some different port called 84. Okay, 80. 80 is the container port, remember, and we are publishing this container port to the host port 84. Okay, then what I have to do, you have to specify the image. I want this latest image to be used to create the container. Dr. Ranjit, my personal app 1.1. Hit enter. So now it's created the file, and here what I'm going to use localhost 84. See, now I have three containers running. One container, same applications, another container, different application. Right? Now you can see how we can create multiple containers with using multiple images, and same images if you want to modify and you can use, you can create it. Here what happened, simply by using docker container run command, we created single containers. Okay, now you know guys how we can use these containers and how you can run the application. This is, see, this is a very small basic applications I am just showing you. Whatever applications in your company or organizations you have, if you want to keep it in a container, you can keep it, you can do anything actually. Okay, any, suppose I just want to copy all this entire application. This is the AWS application, AWS web site, right? The cloud websites where if you want to copy all these details to a container, you can do that. If you host these applications, if you want to host these applications into a container, you can still do that. Who knows, this might be a container, right? Today, suppose I'm using this one, and I'll show you actually one very big example uh, where all my applications, suppose if you want, that is why I was just checking whether I just have to use, I have one application site, ranjitswai.com, that is whole things are there, right? I just want to write that image file to copy all these things to the working directory path, and then from there it will be executed. Okay, so that I'll do in our next classes. So let me just tell you what happened here. We are going to use multiple Dockerfile commands. That will be around, I think, 15 or yeah, 10 or 15 commands are there, and these commands are very useful, guys, when you are going to write your own Dockerfile or going to write your own image. Here you can see here we have few environment, add, copy on all these things. So copy is nothing but to copy the file from the host machine to the container. Then what is difference with environment and what is add? What is copy and what is add? Copy is, let's see, copy has two forms. Okay, that's fine. And the copy instruction copies new files or directories from source and add them to the file system of the container. But what this add dodge? The add instruction copies new file directories or remote file URLs from source and keep it distinct. So guys, now you know what is the difference add and copy. Just read this twice. What it says: copy instruction new files or directories from source and adds them to the file system of the container. But what add extra dodge? It does the same thing, but the extra thing is remote file URLs. So normally whatever I showed you the copy, what it did actually, it just copied the file locally from local system to the container. If your file is available somewhere else in a different URLs or different server, right? So how you'll use that copy, right? That's very important, guys, to understand between these two. Okay. What happens actually in the real time organization, we keep our files or we keep our projects in a different server, and from that server we want to copy that file and put into the container. That time we have to use add. And here is the simple example how we can use this add. This is one simple from same thing. You are going to use copy, right? Copy text file my directory. You can use the add same file and directory. However, the extra things you can do, you can use that for URLs. Okay, so here it should be there for example. See, add http example.com foo bar slash. That means this foo bar is the directory or the file which will be created here. So what happens? This example would create the file foobar in this URL. So this example.com is the server where your applications is be there. And if you want that applications to be copied, you can specify the URL with the file name to the location. So what it will do, it will copy that file from this location and put it here. Remember, you will get questions, interview questions. What is the difference between add and copy? Or they can twist the question. They can say, if I have a file in a remote location or any URL, how I want to copy that file to a container, how I can copy that file to a container. Then you can simply say, you can use the add command to copy the file from that URL or from that server. Okay, remember. And there is another good differences. Okay, people will you will get questions like the volume. I already have explained about these volumes. What happens? The volume creates a mount point with the specified name and marks it as holding externally mounted volumes. So here they have given what is the volume, right? Suppose here what happened, using run command. You can see using run command just created one directory, my vol, and I just use this volume command to use that directory as my vol, that directory as my volume. That means all the data, whatever being copied to this path, will be treated as the volume. It will be stored there. So this volume command you can write in the Dockerfile to create the image. Okay, and another way I had shown you how you can create the volumes through command line interface, right? How you can create the volumes through command line interface, right? So that two things you just keep in mind. And another good details I'll show you. There is like entry point and CMD. So what is the difference between entry point and CMD? This is very good questions actually, and you must get this question in your interview. Okay, let me just open my document where I have just written all this. One second. Uh, I have to find it out where it is. One second, give me time. Okay, so here is the thing. So what is the difference between entry point and sim? Try to understand. I will definitely like can say like you'll not understand the first point until unless you do the practice of these two actually. The entry point, what happens? Prefer entry point to CMD when building executable Docker image and you need a command always to be executed. So definitely you will not understand this line until unless I elaborate more on that. Okay. So what happens? Let's give an example here I have given. Let me just read out through. Additionally, use CMD if you need to provide extra default arguments that could be overwritten from the command line when Docker containers run. Just try to understand these two. One second.
Uh,
I am not shared it.
Ranjit,
1 second. Yeah.
please share.
Okay. So here, if you see, okay. So here, if you see the entry point and CMD, prefer entry point to CMD. Just try to understand. Prefer entry point to CMD when building executable Docker image and you need a command always to be executed. Done. Now read this one. Additionally, use CMD if you need to provide extra default arguments that could be overwritten from the command line when Docker container runs. Okay, when to use CMD? When you want to provide extra arguments and that will be overwritten whatever is there in the Docker file. So whatever the instructions is given in the Docker file that will be overwritten. So let's give I have just given a written here example. Let's see this example. Suppose you have given CMD echo hello world. CMD echo hello world. What it will do? It will just print hello world, right? Or hello something, right? Suppose it will print hello docker. So when the container creates with extra command in the runtime, it will overwritten. That means the command is given hello docker. Okay, Let me just do small file, small example here. Okay, let me rename this file. Okay, let me create one more Docker file. Docker file. So let's use the from busybox. I'm going to use the tiny Linux utilities busybox. Okay, now what I'm going to use, simple CMD echo, the command to echo, and then hello anything, hello Docker. This is a simple image and I'm going to build it quickly. Docker. I'll just give this example. You'll now understand clearly what is the difference between entry point and CMD. Okay, Docker build -t. Okay, so I missed to provide dot here because it did not find the Docker file, so that's why it failed. That is what Venkat was getting. What it says, Docker build requires exactly one argument. So I did here. Okay, so our image is created now. Let me create the container, right? What will do? Docker container. I'll run this image. Container run hyphen d. Okay, now let's execute this. I don't want to give a name because I want it will be randomly generated, right? Just hit enter. What will see? Okay, as I ran in the backend detached mode, it did not print anything. It created the container, but it did not print anything because we have given just to print echo hello world, right? Remove this. Let's run in the folder. See, it gives me hello Docker. That is what is this image contains, right? Hello Docker. If I want to overwrite this, I don't want this to print hello Docker. What I can do here, same thing is written here. If you want to just overwrite here, what will happen? Let's see. Run, and I'll just write. Sorry, sir. It should be okay. What it will do? See, exit bin bash. Okay, it's not able to execute bin bash. So I have to use hyphen IT options. Run IT.
I think you put IT. I think T will be there.
IT is there. It's fine. 1 second. Okay, let me just go through this first. I think I'm missing something while passing this argument. Okay, let's just understand what is the next line here. What is the real difference between this entry point? Actually, the command and parameters are not ignored when Docker container runs with the command line parameters. Okay, now what happens? We gave CMD as echo hello Docker. Okay, now if I just modify this image, let me just modify this image. vi Dockerfile. Okay. Now instead of CMD, right? What I'll just use, suppose I can use entry point, and it should be like, there's a bin echo. Let me just copy this. Okay. Now what happens here? I just gave it one entry point that will just print hello DevOps, echo hello DevOps. Okay, if I want to just override this hello DevOps with hello Docker, I can write the CMD, which will be hello Docker. Then what is the difference here? The entry point, the main is I have highlighted here, the entry point specifies a command that will always be executed when the container starts. So when the container will start, it will be executed this line first. It will be always executed this line. So the CMD specify arguments that will be fed to the entry point. That will be fed to the entry point. Okay. Now let me do one more example here. Suppose I just want to do here. I just suppose simple command. Suppose I just did bin ping, and I just want to give, suppose, uh, ranjitswine.com. Okay, ranjitswine.com. Now let's see that I have written somewhere here. Okay, here. So you'll understand clearly now. Who I'm just giving you. Here I did not specify anything. Okay, the entry point is ping. See, another good things you should remember, whenever you are using entry point, the CMD must should be there. Should be must there. If you don't specify CMD, it will throw error. If entry point is there, CMD must should be there, must should be there. Okay, so you have to be like, what happens here, it will first execute this command and this CMD will feed to it. It will give what to ping ranjitswine.com. Okay, now let me quickly do that. Quickly build it. Entrypoint CMD version 1.1. Okay. Let me build this. Okay, now let me run this one. Okay, what will happen? Let's see. See what happens. It is just pinging ranjitswine.com and it is getting the response. The container is now running and it is pinging the server. The server name is ranjitswine.com and it is pinging and getting the response. Okay, now what happens? Let me terminate this, and I want to suppose uh, ping different server. Suppose google.com. Suppose google.com. What will happen? See, now it is pinging google.com. Now what happens, you understood clearly, the entry point is the first executable start point of a container. So when you run a container, if you have specified the entry point, then it will be first executed. The entry point, okay, it is getting entered to the container, the entry point. And if you want to feed something to the entry point, then you can specify in the CMD command. This is need to be fit to the entry point. Okay, and that again you can feed to a container. If you don't want to modify the image and to feed it from outside, you can feed from outside while running the container. Still it is running. Okay. Okay. So what happened here? You can see here I created two container, but the container will be there, but it will be exited, right? Container ls hyphen a. Wow, there are lots of containers are there. I have created lots of containers. See, lots of containers are there, but three containers I think will be running. Okay, so these ad hoc containers, whatever ping entry CMD command I just telling you, right? That is exited. Now it is, see, status is exited. That's okay. Now let me explain you more on this. Now you understood how you can use this entry point to CMD and the entry point. If you don't want a starting point, then you don't have to specify these things. If you use only CMD also, you can use CMD ping localhost. It will ping the localhost. Okay. Uh, okay. This is what I just gave. Okay, fine. Now another one differences I have given it here: argument versus CMD. Now you understand two differences: add and copy. When to use add and when to use copy. Now let's see what is the difference. What is the difference between ARG, and ENV? Okay, so there may come time where you will want to add an environment variable to your Docker image. So Docker, see, environment variable everywhere in every program, every project you used to add environment variables, right? Environment variables is must. So now in container also, in the Docker image also, we can add environment variables, right? But you will want this value to be different depending on where you build your image, but you don't want to edit your Docker file to change it. Okay, this is now the real time you will understand where to use these two commands. Okay, let me give an example to you. Suppose your application you have created an image for your development purposes, or you have created an image which you are working on the development. So what you can do, you can add one argument, okay, and give a development environment. The environment variable you can give one development. That means when you build that image and run it, it will redirect that one to the development server. Development purpose the container will create. And if you want to test the same application in the staging server or for a staging purpose, you can specify staging. If you can run it in it for production, you have to specify in production, but you don't have to change your Docker file. So how you can do it? You can do it while running the container during the runtime. You can pass it, or by default whatever is given in the Docker file, it will be there. That is what is given. What happened, there may come some time where you want to add an environment variable to a Docker image, but you'll want this value to be different depending on where you build your image, but you don't want to edit your Docker file to change it. What is more difference? ARG is only build time variables. While building, it will be used. Means it will be available when you are building the image from a Docker file. So ENV is being used in runtime while creating the container out of the image. Okay. Argument is only build time variables. Means it will be used while building the Docker file, while building the image from a Docker file, but environment will be runtime while creating the container. So here is a simple example here, guys. I have just given argument as production, and I've created one argument, and I have created the same thing as my environment variable. Okay, environment variable, and here I've given this as this pass this command to this environment variable, and this now contains the value as production. When I build this image, what will happen? It will create the image with argument as production. So this argument, when I build, this will be the, as it is a build time, it will keep this as build. Okay, now let's do that one. Well, okay, so what will happen? Good. So this is building, and
So is it possible to use both argument in the same time, like no ARG as and ENV in the Docker file?
yes.
And see, ARG, we are defining the environment. But in case of environment,
Uh-huh.
whatever we are going to give the input and it will work accordingly, right? Or
Yes.
how?
Yes. Whatever the input will pass during the runtime by using, see, what happened here while building the image, what happens here, I have used this hyphen hyphen build arguments, your app underscore environment, I've given as staging. Okay, this is the staging environment. Okay, I have given as staging. So what happens here, if you want to build the image, but you don't have to change your image file. So let me simple show you by creating this, so you'll understand more again better. Uh, okay, so now we can see here our argument is your same thing, actually your app underscore environment, and let me just I'll just change it, I'll just twist it here a little bit. I'll just give it as ARG here. Okay, your app ARG. Here the argument production, and I'm passing this as environment variable as production. Okay, now let me run this one and let me build it. Let me build it. Okay, so let me just hit enter. Let's see. Okay, what happens here? I just build this one. Okay, now let me run these applications and see what is the value here. Now Docker container run. Okay, Docker container run. Okay, so let's, That is the what. Okay, fine. Oops, it got stuck. 1 second. Okay, so let it. So it's running something. It's not getting exited. Control C. What happened? Okay, it's not working. So let me just explain more on this. Okay, now you can see here when you build it, what happens here? I'm just simply running that one. Okay, and it just gave me production as my environment. Okay, suppose I want to change it while building the image. What I have to do? I have to pass this hyphen hyphen build hyphen arg argument. Hyphen hyphen build hyphen arg argument to rename your environment variables. So here the environment variables is given as production in the image file, in the Docker file. In the Docker file it is there production, but I don't want to run this as in the production. I want this to be built as staging server, so staging environment. So what I have to do? Simply while building our image, simply while building our image, I can pass your app on. So you have to pass this definitely hyphen hyphen build hyphen arg option, and then you have to pass the argument here hyphen equal to staging, and then you can do that. Okay, now it's good. It's got stock, right? Okay, let me just create another terminal. Okay, now what is that? Okay, this was the arg environment. Okay, now let me build it again. Docker. Okay, anyway, the image is already there, but let me run it. Environment. Okay, so it is 1.0. Okay, fine. So let's do graph. It's not giving anything output. Okay, so here argument.
Here we can use Ranjit, instead of using grep, in the Docker file itself, can we use echo your app arc?
Yeah, that's very good finding, Venkat. Actually, yes, that is what I was just going to write it. Okay, so what Venkat said, instead of using this one, you can write echo in the here to print the staging. So that's very good, Venkat, to catch up with. So guys, you have to focus whatever I'm doing and how we can do it better. You have to tell me. Okay. So now when Venkat actually cut the thing, either we can use using this grep, but it is not displaying anything. Now instead of that, I can modify this Docker file to add echo command to print the variables. That's simple, right? Let me just do that. Here, let me just modify it. It should be ENV, I think. ENV. Okay, now let me just add one more thing here. CMD echo. I can just print this value, right? Let's see what is happening. To that, I have to just build the command again, docker build -t, but this time I'll give a different version. Okay, so image is created. Let me, if I run this one, see, it gives me production. Okay, it gives me production because this production is there in the Docker file. This is in the Docker file. The argument is production is the Docker file. Okay, I want to modify. I don't want run this one into the production, this image file. Instead, what I can do while building this image, I can pass an option that's called -r hyphen build, right? What was that? -r, sorry, build -r build -arg. And what I can do, I can pass during build, guys. During build, I am passing it. Okay, -arg. Let me copy this and save some time to staging server, right? Okay, build -arg. Just give the after staging. Just build it. Oops, sorry. The same image I rebuilt, right? 1.1. Fine. Now if I run it, see, last time it gave production, now it is giving staging. Okay, now what will happen? Let me create uh, without option. Let me create. So 1.1 is production. Okay, and I can just give a name to that. Instead of 1.1, I can give the image name as stack stack point 1.0. This is the staging. Hit enter. Good. Now run it. Stack 1.0. See, it's giving me staging, but if I use same image but with version 1.1, it will give me production. Okay, our 1.1 is production, stack 1 is right staging. If I want to change it to something else, it will give me development or something if you want to modify it. Okay, similarly what happens here, you can, that is what the good point, right? Without modifying our Docker file, if you want to change your behavior of image, you can use these environment variables or arguments. Okay, that's clear. Now, what is the Docker ignore file? Guys, Docker ignore is very important. Sometimes what happens in the context area, there will be multiple, see, when you are building an image, based on the instructions in the Docker file, it will build, right? And you don't want few sensitive informations or sensitive data to be added into the image. In that time, what you can do, you can just use dot Dockerfile. Sorry, dot Docker ignore. Same thing in GitHub also. In Git we had dot git ignore, right? Dot git ignore. So these actually, this is a hidden file. If you don't want to send those instructions while building the image from the context area, you can use this one. So before the Docker CLI sends the context to the Docker daemon, it looks for a file named .ignore in the root directory of the context. If the file exists, it will ignore. That will not be added to the image. And that's very important, guys. And mostly you have to use this Docker ignore. Okay, now it's very clear. We completed this Docker and Dockerfile. Okay, and we just gave the examples of add, copy, examples of like argument and environment, and most examples of entry point and command, right? These are the most common questions you will may get it from in the interviews. Also, in real time, whenever you are working, you have to see there are only 10 to 15 commands only Dockerfile, 15 commands, and you have to all. It's very easy if you use all these in your command. And if you don't know how to use that, simply follow any one of the image, which will having all the Dockerfile syntax there, right? I showed you, right? Just go and click one image there, go to the tags, and it will have the Dockerfile details informations available. See, all these Docker files here, work directory, environment. See the version, HTTPD version is 2.4. When you build this image, the version will be 2.4.52. If you want to use a different version, suppose 5.3 or 2.5 or to something, then you can pass this environment variable while building the Docker file. Okay, so this is very important, guys, to understand all this. Here one is the stop signal is there. Okay, if you go here, I think here you can see one stop signal will be there, one command stop signal, on build, stop the signal, health check, sell. Go through all these. I just don't want to spend time to just whatever is there to cover it. You can go by yourself. If you have any doubt, you can just tell me and we can discuss on that. Okay, so let's see what is this stop signal. Let me just explain. The stop signal instruction sets the system call signal that will be sent to the container to exit. Okay, and health check, it does the health check of the container, right? You can do health check instruction, tells Docker how to test a container to check that it is still working, and how we can use the intervals point, right? Retries, like if a container is having some issues or failed, it will try to, if it, okay, whenever a health check passes, it becomes healthy. Whatever, okay, after a certain number of consecutive failures, it becomes unhealthy. What happens here, if there is some issues or bugs there in your applications and your container is terminated, or your container dies, right? That is unhealthy. And what do you do if you use this health check option? Health check will be there in every application. You might be using your application health check. Health check means it will be checking the health of the container. If the container is okay, that's fine. If it having some abnormal behavior or something like it dies or something exited, it will retry. It will, if you give in this retries options, suppose 3, default is 3. If you're giving 5, it will try to start the container 5 times or default 3 times. Okay, if it is working, then it will mark as healthy. If not, again it is unhealthy. It will be keep trying to that. Okay, so you just go through all these options, and the health check interval 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes it will do the health check. Okay, and same commands are there. Okay, and shell command is very simple. It's nothing but to execute something. It's a, see here it is you can use run command to run the echo. You can use CMD echo something, right? Similarly, shell command to use some, to execute some command. Shell, you can use cmd-s to execute something. Just go through all these, and we can discuss if you have any doubt further, and you can find good examples over here. Try to create and try to troubleshoot if you're encountering any issues. Okay, so in our next class we'll discuss about multi-container, that is how we can use docker compose. Can use docker compose to create multi-container, and that time we will see multiple applications, and will just create 3 containers which will having one our UI and database and business logics and database UI. Okay, all these three how we can create and how we can interlink each other. Okay, that we'll see it. Okay, guys. So next class maybe we'll do on Tuesday. Okay, and that time we'll finish up this Docker completely. Tuesday or Thursday, you just take your time, you just do practice. Maybe after February 16th, we'll just cover this Kubernetes. Okay. Okay. If you have any doubt, we can discuss now, or we can wind up this session. Okay.